Good morning, friends. This morning I have chosen to read you a section of the book called Ancient Wonders. Ancient Wonders has different sections on a lot of different unique structures that have been made by different civilizations. And I'm just going to read one of them to you today. So, Ancient Wonders, written by Iris Volant and Avalon Nuovo. You might be asking yourself, what are ancient wonders? Well, ancient wonders are different things built by different ancient civilizations over time. And they give us a sneak peek into the ingenuity of those generations, how they made things without our modern technology. And in many cases, what they created is far stronger to the test of time than things we build these days, even with all of our modern conveniences. The wonder we're going to read about today is the Great Pyramid of Giza. This was made somewhere around 2575 to 2465 BC. That means before Common Era, or before Christ. So here we go. Just west of the Egyptian city of Giza, a great stone guardian towers above the horizon, the Great Pyramid. Built 4,500 years ago, this massive monument is the oldest of all 7 ancient wonders, and the only one that still exists today. The Great Pyramid was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu. A pharaoh was considered to be someone between God and man, and it was very important that his spirit had a successful journey to the afterlife. The pharaoh's pyramids would have been built to protect his body and to show the grandeur of his reign. But corridors were also constructed to help guide him to the afterlife. At nearly 500 feet tall and 750 feet wide on each side, the Pyramid of Khufu, as it is also known, took enormous groups of Egyptian workers somewhere between 10 and 20 years to complete, and it remained the tallest building in the world for more than 3,000 years after it was built. Its 4 equal sides are exactly aligned with the directions of the compass, and its 4 corners are nearly perfect right angles. This still baffles builders and historians today, because ancient Egyptians did all of this without modern technology like iron tools, pulleys, or even wheels. Inspiration: ancient Egyptian deities. At the time of Khufu's reign, the ancient Egyptians had strong beliefs about death and the afterlife. These were intertwined with their religion, which included a pantheon of gods and goddesses. According to their beliefs, when a person died, his or her body had to be properly preserved in order for their spirit self to proceed safely to the afterlife. This would happen in a process known as mummification. It's making them into mummies, right, friends? He or she would then have to pass through a series of fearsome tests as they journeyed through the underworld before finally appearing in front of the god Osiris. In this picture, the god Horus is often shown as part man and part falcon. Some people believed that pharaohs were actually earthly incarnations of Horus himself. The ancient Egyptians believed that a part of one's soul was kept in one's heart. So as part of final judgment, the deceased person's heart would be placed on one side of a scale. On the other side was the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, and harmony. A balanced scale meant that the deceased person had lived well and could pass on to the afterlife. But if the heart was heavier than the feather, then it would be devoured by the crocodile-headed demon Amit, and the soul would be condemned to an afterlife eternity of restlessness. Inside the Great Pyramid, we're able to continue exploring the Great Pyramid as it still stands today. Even so, its curious system of tunnels and chambers remain a mystery. Some historians believe that they exist simply because the pharaoh Khufu kept changing his mind about where he wanted his burial chamber to be. Others claim that these narrow passages and unusual caverns were carefully planned, perhaps for spiritual reasons or to prevent grave robbers. If anything is certain, it is that we may never know for sure. The walls inside the inner chamber, which were never meant to be seen, there are still some markings there left by the original builders. Here is the king's chamber, where Khufu himself would have been buried. Inside is a large stone sarcophagus, though its contents are long gone. These small empty chambers relieve pressure on the ceiling of the king's chamber to reduce the possibility that it might cave in. This is the Grand Gallery, and it was once believed that these long shafts provided airflow for the builders. However, since they are precisely aligned to the north and the south, many now believe that they were built to allow the soul passage between the chamber and the cosmos. Down here we have the Queen's Chamber, which probably never held a queen. It is more likely that this room held some of Khufu's belongings, to which he may have meant to carry with him into the afterlife. This is the mysterious lower chamber, buried deep underneath the pyramid. It seems like it was abandoned and never finished. When it was first built, the outside of the Great Pyramid was finished with smooth limestone. But sadly, most of this outer layer has since been stolen. This tunnel was not part of the original pyramid. It was dug by the Caliph Al-Mamun in the 9th century when he and his men attempted to get inside. If you were to visit the Great Pyramid today, this is how you would enter. Ancient tech, moving and lifting. The builders of great ancient structures did not have modern machinery to lift and carry massive slabs of stone. It was ingenious maneuvering and a few clever tricks of physics that allowed them to make the most of the simple materials they had. Moving. To carry slabs of stone to the building site of the Great Pyramid, huge groups of builders dragged sleds across the ground. Each sled might weigh several tons. As they went, workers would pour ahead of the crew to form a smooth, firm path for the sled to slide on as it was dragged. This prevented the stone and sled from getting stuck in the desert sand. Medieval builders in China used a similar system to carry massive stones nearly 45 miles to Beijing to build its forbidden city. They worked through the dead of winter, wetting the surface of long paths of ice to help their sleds slide along. Many scholars agree that the builders of the Great Pyramid lifted stones by constructing ramps and dragging the stones up the sides of the pyramids on sleds. They would have removed the ramps after the pyramid was completed. Lifting. The ancient Egyptians and Indians were some of the first to use levers. This simple but clever device allowed a single person to lift many times their own weight just by pressing down on the lever's long end. The first recorded use of pulleys is in Mesopotamia around 1500 BCE for lifting buckets of water. But it was the ancient Greeks about 1,000 years later who took the system and built the first crane, which allowed them to lift very heavy objects up. The crane and took up a lot less space and required fewer laborers than a ramp. And that is the end of our story today about the pyramid at Giza. Thanks for joining me, friends.